to be, which is a family farm. But is there anything preventing it from being a solar farm or a
new ordinance? You could do an ordinance
situation
limiting.
with,
Yeah, a good
Yeah.
ordinance. You could write an ordinance, right?
no, I'm asking,
Yeah, go for it. Answer his question.
yeah, is there anything preventing, like, is there any way the town to protect that land to be preserved and farmed in a way that
Ask your
those
attorney.
people think that it should be farmed?
I know they don't.
Sure, I mean, there's solar legislation that dictates how much solar can be on a preserved farm.
There you go.
So as preserved, you're limited to 110% of the farm's needs. It's really for on-farm usage, not for any sort of sellback or.
What about this
large-scale
agro
generation.
solar?
So could that property be a solar farm?
Did you just say that consent?
Today, I don't know, that would depend on your ordinances, but not if it was.
Can we do something to protect it to not be a solar farm?
What about
Preserve it. Yeah.
Well, can't solar farms be on preserved land?
But she
No.
just said,
Only a percentage of it.
100% of the
The farm
farm's
needs.
needs.
The blues.
Go with it.
Okay, so that's the,
But can there, but I think you asked
Agrivoltaic.
another question, which is, I'm not gonna.
That's good, at least they're listening.
On a preserved farm, can poop houses, so to speak,
It's okay, we'll deal with that when
be
you come.
put? Does that make sense?
We'll lobby for
I
that.
think that's-
basically what I'm asking is how do we protect it? If we were to preserve this property,
We
how would we
vote you out.
protect it to have it in the way that everyone here is imagining it to be preserved? That's my question.
Right, so the SADC's currently been working on soil protection standards that I mentioned the last time I was here. The current proposal is 12% of a farm or 4 acres, whichever is more.
Wow. That's
There's a
what-
lot more to the proposed regulations than that. Again, they're proposed, they're still, being looked over by the governor's office. Then will be published. They've been discussed extensively with county ag boards and other venues for representing the farm community. So if passed, that sets a pretty, hard limit on what can be considered permanent disturbance on a preserved farm. There's other programs like the federal funded ag easement, where there's just a strict impervious cover limit that's somewhere between 5 and 7% of a piece of property if federal funds are used. Some land trusts and landowners themselves have asked for those kind of stricter restrictions on a piece of property so that they have their own confidence that it's not gonna turn into a piece of property that's covered.
Is there anything that we can do on the town level to preserve it in a way that people are expecting it to be preserved in that sort of fashion? It'll always be farmed in the when people think of farming, family farm, like Tom Meyer does or the Petersons do, is there any way that we can kind of ensure that will always be farmed in that manner?
Certainly, if you wanted to support the preservation of the farm, but ask for or encourage an impervious cover limit, that's something that could be considered. The SADC, the State Ag Development Committee, preserves farm for a variety of agricultural uses, so we don't generally limit the type of farming that can occur. What we're trying.
Could we reduce the exception areas on farms, on a preserved farm? The exception area basically where, because in some farms you're allowed to develop a certain exception area that's not included as part of the preserved.
Right, same restrictions don't apply. Generally speaking, they're taken for future housing opportunities, but sometimes it's for use flexibility. So over the past 5 or more years, weddings have become very popular on farms. Up until legislation that's currently on the governor's desk, weddings on preserved farms were not permitted. They're soon going to be allowed on preserved farms. So, but people were taking larger exception areas to accommodate uses that weren't allowed on the preserved part of the farms. So, we generally don't approve exception areas that are over 10% of the farm size.
Would the state-
100 acres, we're not going to be preserving. The farm's generally not going to have over a 5-7 acre exception area.
Okay.
a lot can be done in even 2 acres, but,
37 acres.
Would the state consider parcel preservation like 150 acres
It's been
and
kind of a semester.
200 acres, so that like 250, or it's all or nothing?
for the
We
marsh.
just did, so this with Mark Farm.
Yeah.
I mean, we work with willing landowners.
Okay.
You know, you can't preserve the farm without a willing landowner. We reached out to you about Marv, because there were interesting parties.
Have you reached out to the current landowner? Are they willing to preserve it? Because
We worked with
they're,
them.
you know, the rumor mill is, you know,
Right,
they're not
we were-
willing to
Right.
actually preserve the property, is what I've heard.
Right, we were under contract with members of the family when other members at the final
In
hour.
2014.
Yeah,
Okay, so the current owners of the house don't have an application, and from what I
Correct.
understand, they do not want preservation. Or they're not willing to
they're
preserve, so.
not approached us about going to the preservation
Okay,
process.
so-
Yeah.
And so the other question I would have, Diane, you have a question,
No, I mean, I'm gonna go back
Thank
to
you, Craig.
the restrictions that can be placed on the property and the effect that right to farm has on that, as we have seen in this township, that right to farm often overrides any of those restrictions.
Well, right to farm doesn't override farmland preservation deed restrictions. So, I mean, I've encouraged you before to reach out to council in our office,
Right.
to have right to farm specific discussions with them about the situation in Franklin Township. I can't attend to those
Yeah,
questions
no, I'm not
for you.
asking to,
Because the thing I think
The
that
name.
that
I'm just saying
What's
is,
the name of the congressman?
yeah, if we were to put restrictions,
What's the name?
deed restrictions on, does that really allow us to continue to keep the property the way we all envision it?
Right, so if there was a 5% impervious cover restriction on the 250 acres, they would be limited
They
to
wouldn't buy
that
it.
amount of impervious
Yeah, it
cover.
would be
There's
unattractive.
a definition
To
in
an
the deed as to
industrial
what impervious
endeavor.
cover is,
Yeah.
and if they went
It'd
over
be
that, they'd be
unattractive.
in violation of the deed easement.
And who, quote, monitors that, is that the right word?
You guys.
Or-
Whoever holds the easement on the property.
So if the SADC were to,
If we held the easement, we would monitor the restrictions associated with it, and
or if
annually.
HLTA does, then
Right, I mean, that,
Got
in
Okay.
most of the farmland programs in the state, the SADC, the state, is the largest cost share contributor.
they, right,
We ultimately, if we participated financially with all of your dollars, then, we have some sort of right of enforcement. So if the county were to hold the easement, the township held the easement,
No other question, guys, today. You can do it at the end of the meeting, okay?
It's actually relevant. so
Sorry,
this is not a
sorry,
question. Okay, we'll wait.
The one question I had for you then, I think what Diane was saying is that we don't wanna put the township in a legal situation where we have to take people to court, and it costs us a lot of money years ago to get situations, and we lost those cases.
You
And
lost
then
it.
finally, it went before the state helped and the county helped, and they won, and there hasn't been remediation on the properties that were in question.
and
And
a long
so,
conversation.
and so that's the issue that we have, so, August Knipsel, when he basically helped institute and write the Farmland Preservation Act,
and who would form?
and the right to farm, basically envisioned what a farm is. Farming today is nothing like it was farming was years ago. Hoop houses are now considered farming. Greenhouses are now considered farming. You know, where they basically strip the land,